to George and Kevin for giving us, the resources to be able to do this, to facilitate this process and doing it the right way. We wanted to make sure that we interviewed everybody in person. So that entailed flying out to see candidates and bringing guys in to see them here at Hallis Hall. And we did that. And it was great because we wanted to make sure that we did a thorough process of this and got to know each candidate. And that was really part of the decision making. And I thought it was really good. Also, in-house, I wanted to thank a bunch of staff members in-house that did a really good job. Obviously, Ryan Poles for his support during this process. Matt Feinstein, he does all the contracts, so that's a lot of work, and getting that done. Working through it with the agents and those types of things. Harry Freed did an excellent job assisting me in the process and giving me support. Chris Morgan, our offensive line coach, was very involved in the process as well, certainly with the offensive coordinator hire. Liz Geist in HR, onboarding everybody that we hired. Excellent job there. And Kyle Kelly, he's the guy that does all our director of logistics for us and does a wonderful job. And just wanted to thank those guys. Today is really about Eric and Shane and the men and women we have assembled today. And that's what it's about today. And we got one more hire though. We got to hire an assistant defensive line coach. You guys saw that Justin Hines left for Seattle to be the D-line coach there. And so we're in the process of hiring that position as we speak, interviewing several candidates this week and potentially into this weekend. So we got one more hire that we have to do. So let's talk about the process really quick about hiring the offensive defensive coordinator and then also the other positions that we did hire. So it really started in January 12th, the Thursday right after the season. We ended up having a 2-week period where we wanted to hire the offense and defensive coordinator first. And that was going to be a big part of assembling the rest of the staff at that point. And it took us about 2 weeks to get that done. We interviewed 14 candidates on both sides of the ball during that time. And it was important for us, like I said, to do that in person. The one guy that we did interview twice was Shane. Shane came here to Hallis Hall. We ended up obviously selecting Shane. And then Eric was here for the entire day during his interview as well. So that was really cool. Chris Morgan has had a promotion during this process. He's now the run game coordinator. And like I said, he assisted as well in the interview process. We were very fortunate that one of the offensive coordinators that we did interview was Thomas Brown. And, we obviously hired him as the passing game coordinator, so we're very fortunate to have him. He's got a connection with Shane, of course, and that's going to be a really good, between him, Shane, and Chris is going to be a really good dynamic for the offensive staff. Chris Beatty is another guy that we are fortunate to have. Obviously a great track record out there the last 3 years at the Chargers, with that elite receiving core. And obviously he was he was DJ's position coach over there at Maryland. And when DJ was very successful there, he was obviously Big Ten Player of the Year when Chris is there with him. And then we brought a few guys from Seattle, which we're excited about those guys. Kerry Joseph's going to be our quarterback coach. You can see his extensive track record there. Playing quarterback, kind of a cool thing that he also played defense. He also played safety in the NFL. Gives him a great perspective. Also bringing from Seattle, we got Chad Morton, high energy running back coach. Does a great job with those guys. Has a great track record. Obviously a 7-year vet in the league. So excited to get him as well. And then Robbie Pagazzo. He was with Shane as well. Offensive assistant working with the quarterbacks and receivers. Played quarterback at Stanford. I see him as a rising star in the league. Excited to have him as well. And then working with the offensive line, Jason, his nickname's Hoss, Hodling, and he's going to be our assistant O-line. He actually worked at Tennessee last year as the offensive line coach, so we're fortunate to get him from there, and he had a great interview, and we're excited about that. And then lastly on offense, Jennifer King. She's going to be working with our running backs, offensive assistant, working with the running backs. Certainly excited to have her. Kind of a cool journey for her. She was a player, an All-American as a player in tackle football. Has coached in basketball, and certainly excited to have her join our staff as well, and going to be very beneficial for us. And then my good friend over here, Eric Washington. I've known Eric a long time. He's the new defensive coordinator, and certainly going to be helpful for assisting, and for me as the play caller. And our defense has done a wonderful job in the short time he's been here, and certainly excited to have him. And then obviously, selecting Shane. Shane was a big hire for us as well, just as Eric was. And I can't say enough about him. Things we look for in our coaches. I talked about some characteristics, with the staff a couple weeks ago, kind of onboarding those guys. And it's really about a few things that we talked about, and it's really about being creative. You want to be creative, and you want to be curious. To really make the scheme go and make it go with the skill set that we have. And that's important on offense and defense. And that's one of the things we talked about. And that's why these two men are sitting right here with us today, about being adaptable. You got to be able to adapt, during the course of a season. You're going to have injuries at times. You're going to have different skill sets in there. In-game adaptability. You got to be able to have in-game tactics. And that's an important part during the process of hiring the coordinators. And obviously being a leader. You got to be a dynamic leader to be able to lead these men on offense and defense. And that's an important part as you stand in front of the room. And you got to be, dynamic that way. And then obviously being a teacher. We want to be prepared. And part of being prepared is having great teachers as coaches. And we want to do that with our players. And you guys have heard me say this a bunch of times. And the last two things that I'm going to talk about are the most important thing, is the love of football. You got to love the game, just like we want our players to love the game. That's infectious. And if you love coming to work every single day, guess what? Your players are going to love coming to work every single day. And the last but not least is the ability to partner. The partnership that you form with your coaches and on your staff, and the partnership that you form with your players is ultimately what gets it done in this league. And our product that we put on the field is the players. And we want our players to look the very best, our units to look the very best, and that's going to be winning football for the Chicago Bears. So that's what we're excited about.
Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to start by saying that, first of all, it's an honor and a privilege to be standing here today in this role, to be returning to Chicago, to be returning to the Chicago Bears, the place where I started my NFL coaching career 16 years ago. I want to thank Matt Eberflus for, first of all, allowing me to be a part of the process of getting to this particular point, going through all the other candidates, and then ultimately deciding that our pairing, our partnership would be the thing that we needed to do to take this defense to the next level and to accomplish the goals that we have as a defense, as a team, and as an organization. I want to thank the McCaskey family. I was here 16 years ago in somewhat of an entry-level role. I was a defensive assistant, quality control, just coming into pro football. And even at that role, the McCaskey family got to know me. They allowed me to get to know them and to realize and to understand the legacy of the Chicago Bears. And now, having an opportunity to come back, they welcomed me back with open arms, and I'm looking forward to doing my part to help us attain our ultimate goal, and that's to win a championship. I also want to acknowledge my wife, Amy, and my son, Ellis, who have provided unbelievable support and love for me throughout my entire career. My son was born here in Evanston. He was born just as I was leaving and transitioning to the Carolina Panthers 16 years ago. So it's really cool to now come back. He's 13 years old, and for him to be a part of this situation, understand why this is a very special place. I want to thank Ryan Poles, the rest of our front office, for providing the resources and providing knowledge and information about exactly what our plans and what our goals are with respect to moving forward and how we're going to accomplish that, and giving me the tools and resources. It's wonderful to be back. The last acknowledgement that I want to make is I want to dedicate this particular moment to my parents, John and Patsy Washington. Without them, I'm not standing here today. And so I want to dedicate this particular moment to them. I love and appreciate them. And with that, I'll take your questions.
Coach, with Matt Eberflus obviously maintaining his role as play caller, where do you see your best opportunity to come and put your imprint on this defense?
Well, first of all, it's the defense. It's our system, and it's a system that I'm familiar with structurally. There's some things that are similar to what I've been a part of. Matt's got some really cool ideas, and so you jump in and you do, from my role, you do everything you possibly can to make sure that we perfect our system. And you bring the experiences that you've had, that I've had over 16 years in the NFL and even before that in college football, to add something to inform, to maybe provide a different perspective or some tools and resources. But that's how I intend to approach it, just to come in and really be a part of what we've established, bring my perspective, my level of expertise, the things that I've been fortunate to be a part of in terms of winning situations, explosive defenses, and just kind of add that to the mix and really collaborate with the exceptional staff that we have assembled here on defense.
Were you at all reluctant to take the job because of the fact that you will not be calling plays?
Yeah, my focus was on what the job is, and as opposed to what it isn't. The opportunity to come here and to this organization with a defense that is clearly on an upward trajectory, that has some really dynamic performers in place with plans of obviously augmenting that. That's what my focus was, and that's what it continues to be. I've been a play caller. I'm pretty confident that I will do that again at some point. But right now, I'm really confident in what Matt is going to bring to the table in that respect, and I will support him as best that I can.
What you've seen from this defense, whether it was while you were considering the job or since you've been hired, what specifically appeals to you about where this defense is headed?
It's number one, it's an explosive group of players. This defense was elite in several important categories that lead directly to winning football. Making teams one-dimensional, stopping the run. We've got some really good players on the defensive line. This team is in the top 2 or 3 in taking the football away and continuing to feed an explosive offense. When I looked at that, and in terms of those things being values, those were the things that really got me excited, along with the scheme and the structure of the defense. Those are the things that really got me excited about coming.
Eric, what was your relationship with Matt like before you took this job?
Just a mutual respect. We've known each other for a number of years, and we've got a lot of people in our background that we have kind of worked with, and so I've known Matt for a long time. We've had conversations, back and forth over the years. We've talked about different things that I believe in, different things that are part of his philosophy, and so it's just been a mutual respect in passing. Coaches have a chance to kind of interact with each other at various points during the off season and sometimes during the season. And so that's kind of where it originated from. And I knew that if I had an opportunity to work with him, that I'd be really excited about that.
With your valuable
pedigree,
experience have you gotten as far as the draft goes in your career, and what have you done to kind of get up to speed with what the Bears are, players the Bears are scouting, and decisions that they might be making in this draft?
Well, all of those things are ongoing. I've been here a couple of weeks now, and we've had a lot of meetings, a lot of discussions about where we are with the roster, and the desired traits that we need for the players to make this particular defensive system go. And we've had extensive conversations as far as those things are concerned. We're trying to do our best in terms of evaluating who we have and trying to find the absolute best case scenario with people who are maybe available for us.
What have you learned in your
with your
past
pedigree as a
experience,
defensive line coach, what entices you about working with that unit, knowing that they went big and got Montez Sweat last year, but there's also 2 young defensive tackles who need that teaching element that Matt was talking about?
Sure. We're going to be a team that generates pressure with our front 4. We're going to build the best pass rush in football. That happens to be, an area, fortunately, that I've had tremendous success with. And we have the personnel to get that done. We've got size, speed, quickness, length. Montez, I remember Montez through the pre-draft process when I was in Carolina. Really admired the traits, the mindset, all of those types of things. So you look at the people that we already have here. I mean, it's just exciting. It's exciting. Plus, we invested heavily in the draft last year with the 2 young defensive tackles. I happen to know them going through the draft process. So all things are just positive as far as that goes.
What have you gotten previously as far as just valuable experience or lessons learned from being part of other teams' pre-draft process?
Well, I mean, you realize that this is not an exact science. You have to, there's not one aspect of the evaluation that you can point to and say, okay, this is the thing that will determine whether or not a player has success at this level. It's all of these things together. It's their background in college. It's their level of discipline. It's the production that they've been able to attain. It's the reputation that they have. It's their work ethic. It's all of these things conspiring together. And then also the type of environment that you're bringing that player into. Will that locker room support and be a part of the development of that player? And it's also a little bit of a humility. There's some humility involved. When you come into the National Football League, you're basically starting over. And what worked for you in college, you have to learn how to win at this particular level because of the talent that you're working against, because of the experience that you're working against, some of the things related to scheme. So I've taken all of those things and I'll continue to use those to inform that process.
Will you get a good idea of that at the combine when you're talking with guys about just how much learning they're gonna have to do, any defensive player, but when you're in those meetings next week, to know what you're gonna have to do as a teacher and how you're gonna have to teach specific players, do you walk away from Indy knowing kind of what the work would be cut out for you if the team drafted a specific guy?
Well, you take that particular point, that time, and it informs the process. It's just one aspect of it. But yes, it's valuable in terms of getting to know the player and getting more and more information about their background. Now they're standing and sitting in front of you. You're able to ask detailed questions and get a feel for what they've gained and what they've learned coming from where they're coming from. So we'll take all that information in hand and just continue to add that to the overall profile of that individual.
When you
When
mentioned,
you reflect back on your previous stop here, and you think back to some of the players that you were working with at the time and those units, what are some of your reflections and what are some of your fondest memories from your first stop through here?
Well, we had a collection of defensive linemen. It was a similar philosophy. And they were a tough, aggressive bunch that loved the game. They absolutely loved the game. They were hard workers in practice, and they were a lot of fun to be around. The personalities and just the talent, the relentlessness. I mean, Alex Brown was here, Tommy Harris, Julius Peppers, and congratulations to him also. He was here. I had a chance to work with him at 2 different stops. Anthony Adams. I mean, there was just Israel Adonijah, Matt Tuina. They were a great combination, a great blend of different skill sets, but with the same similar mindset. And we were a defense at that particular time that was personnel driven and not scheme driven. And we emphasized fundamentals. And so we weren't trying to trick you with what we presented to the offense on a week in and week out basis. We wanted our foundation, our calling card, to be the fundamentals and the situational awareness and the development and winning one-on-one. And that's what I remember about those individuals.
you mentioned that you've called plays before and you'd like to do it again someday. Did you talk to Matt Eberflus about that and that maybe eventually this year or even next year you take over those duties of play calling?
Yeah, during that process, the conversations were extensive and comprehensive, and we touched on a lot of things, and Matt's aware of my background in terms of calling defenses, and what we talked about more than anything was just how do we put forth the best scenario for 2024 to make sure our defense is going in the right direction. Matt Eberflus is an unbelievable play caller. He's an outstanding play caller, and we saw the effect that had on our team last year, especially going down the stretch. We want to continue that. We don't want to stymie that momentum. We want to continue that. And my expectation, his expectation for me, is to contribute to that in the planning process and in real time on game day.
What makes him a good play caller from watching film and from just knowing him as a guy for years?
Well, just the ability to be situationally aware and to understand exactly the situation that we're in and to feed the players defensive concepts that will allow us to address that situation and accomplish our goals with respect to what we're seeing first and second down. Also, our priorities. We got to get the run stop. We have to make teams one-dimensional. His play calling will feed into that goal, into that value, and just understanding the prowess and what we are good at as a defense and how to put players in the best position to be successful.
Coach,
Eric, when the head coach and the coordinator are on the same side of the ball, sometimes confusing who does what. Whether it's implementation of the defense or especially on game day, what will your role be? What will you do? How can you best make a difference?
Well, just making sure, number one, understand that Matt is also the head football coach. And so, calling the defense, that job, that responsibility, there's a lot of details, there's a lot of nuance to that. But at the same time, he's got to make sure that the team and the decisions that have to be made from that seat are taken care of. And so for me, I will do everything that the coordinator is doing without actually calling the defense. And if he needs to hand that responsibility off to me temporarily or for a snap or two, be ready to follow up and to take that role on and to make sure that we continue to move forward in the direction that we want to go in. And so the other thing is just, on the sideline during the game, just making sure that the coaches and the players are informed as far as the adjustments that we need to make and how the game is unfolding. So there's a lot of communication. There's a lot of communication back and forth when we go to offense and as opposed to when we're on defense. So just supporting him and being of the mindset that you're the play caller. So if there's a question that's posed, if there's some way I can support that situation, make sure I get that information to him quickly and clearly so he can make a decision.
Will you be like devising game plans or initiating game plans, or is that kind of Matt's thing?
No, we'll be collaborating on all of those issues, and certainly I'll be called upon, or I'll be counted on to be a part of the constructing the defense, organizing.
All right, how's everyone doing?
Good, how are you?
On here. So first of all, I want to thank Coach Eberflus, Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, and of course the McCaskey family for making me part of this great organization and storied franchise. Couldn't be more excited about it. When the job process started and the interview process started, it became obvious pretty quickly for me what direction I wanted to take this thing and really go after this job, getting to know those people, how well they interacted together. So fortunate that it all worked out and totally appreciative of it. From an offensive standpoint, I'm looking forward to a group that can put together a great effort on the field, display great toughness, and then work well together. And so we've put together a staff that we feel like can really, encapsulate all those traits, everything that we're looking for. And, with that, being adaptable. It's a game where things change, players change. Can we adapt? Can we overcome certain situations? And I feel like we have that. For as far as my family did, Eric did a great job talking about his. I can't be more excited about getting my wife Megan, my daughter Lainey, my other daughter Riley out here, being part of this community, and excited for it. Excited to make it part of this great area and this great fan base. So with that, I'll open it up and hear what you guys have.
When Matt interviewed you both times, and when you talked to people in the building here, how much of the conversation was about what you would do with Justin, and how much was what you would do with maybe a college quarterback who's going to be available?
Sure. I think, just from a player standpoint in general, a lot of the conversation on offense revolved around, adaptability. What can you do with, different pieces of the puzzle depending on each year? Each year in this league is going to be its own individual year. And I think priding ourselves on having an offensive system, a group of coaches that can adapt and adjust the scheme to the player's skill set. Because it's our job first to be great teachers And then second, to be able to put guys in the right position, in the best position for their own individual success to lead to our team's success. So a lot of the conversation revolved around not just the quarterback position. Obviously, that's a starting point on offense, but how does that look for every position as team and as teams adapt each year and as players adapt each year?
Shane, how do you go about planning an offense though at this point when you don't know? Or maybe you do, but like, at least right now,
Yeah.
quarterback could be a couple of different.
There you go. No, I think, as far as planning the offense, the first part for us was building a staff, getting everyone together. And then, you have staffs, we've worked together with different people in the past. People have had different experiences. But the first part of that is really speaking our language. What's the 2024 Bears going to look like in terms of how we're calling certain coverages? How are we calling routes? What concepts do we want to, have as part of our core offense when we start OTAs and we start with that building block approach as teachers. So that's the first part of it. And to me, having a system that's speaking the same language, that's multiple in its ways that it can attack a defense, then you start to get the players and you start to know what your personnel is going to look like for that season. And then you build it around the player's skill set. And I think, for me, that's been a part of my core beliefs, and I feel like it's worked out well with the different quarterbacks that I've had a chance to be around over the past several years.
What
Is
kind
it
of,
safe to say this is an offense though, whether it's Justin or a college quarterback that, to be named later, that could work for either one of them?
Yeah, I totally believe that. I think in the past experiences, like I said, with different quarterbacks, different experience levels, whether I was in the coordinator role or in a role as a position coach, I felt that way. I felt different quarterbacks have been able to step foot into the system, be able to learn it quickly, and that starts with us being able to teach it in a good and efficient manner where they understand it, and then being able to go and again adjust because each guy's going to have a different skill set. So what direction does it go? It's the players really take ownership and control of that.
Who's here already that you like, that you're excited about coaching? Who's already in place personnel-wise?
Personnel, well, I think the big thing is just in big picture, because without getting into specific personnel talk right now, because it's an ever changing scenario, especially this time of the year with free agency, and we know that. And I'm just excited about some of the explosive playmakers, some of the core foundational pieces that we have up front, and then some of the toughness in the runners, things that they've displayed on tape right there, and obviously at the quarterback position with that ability to be explosive, to be a playmaker, to work off schedule. Those things are all good pieces to an offense that really finished strong last year, and I'm looking really to see how can we as an offensive staff look to build upon that. How do we incorporate our system with a bunch of great players that have had success in this league? And like I said, getting a chance to look forward at how we come together in this thing, and the individuals will kind of put their best foot forward as we get to it, as we get to know them better. I do think, one part for me is, this is a business, there's a business time of year, but it's a relationship-based business. And for me as a coach coming in, the best chance to start developing those real relationships is when OTAs get going, when the off-season program begins, when we get a chance to, outside of being able to reach out to guys and just say hello to introduce myself, get a chance to spend time with them, get them a chance to know our coaches, get a chance to know them outside of just football X's and O's, because I think once we know each other, once you do develop relationships with people, which is an in-person thing in my mind, then you get a chance to really coach them harder, coach them better, understand how they work and how we would interact together.
Part of the homework for this organization in the weeks ahead is figuring out the quarterback situation. When you presumably will have input on the quarterback draft class, what are your early impressions of Caleb Williams and who he is as a prospect?
Yeah, I think, from afar, mainly my impression of a lot of these quarterbacks, all the college quarterbacks was, what an unbelievable college season we just came, off of with these guys making some of these dynamic plays down the stretch, whether it was leading into the championship games or the bowl games leading up to that, the regular season. Obviously for me being out on the West Coast, get a little bit of more exposure to the Pac-12. I guess Pac-12 still last year, as that thing evolves every day in my mind. But so, just in terms of that, it's been more of generalities, seeing all these guys perform at a high level under the national spotlight, especially there's multiple quarterbacks that have already performed on the highest stage, in big games. And obviously he's one of them, and I'm excited to really, when we start this afternoon with some of our draft process, then the combine kicks off, to me, that's the chance to really dive into this and get going.
When you dive into the pre-draft process from your role, what are the things that excite you most, whether it's pro days, combine, visits? What are the things that are compelling to you in this next stretch of homework?
Yeah, I think getting to know the person, and all these guys, everyone's got a story. Cool thing about football is everyone has such a unique and different background and what led them, what's their why, how did they get to this point? And so, the tape is obviously their resume in terms of the player, but then what is the person like? How is that person going to be able to adjust and adapt to the next level here? And so for me, like the combine's that first chance to start to see some people in person, start to get a chance to, in a shorter time span, interview people, and then putting in all the information that Ryan Poles and his staff has gathered in terms of the off the field, what the character of the player is and all those things. So I'm excited to get to know those guys, like I said, outside of just, the great displays they put up every Saturday afternoon or Saturday night or maybe Tuesday night, some action, you never know. So, no, getting to know those guys would be a good thing.
Geno Smith had a resurgence under you in Seattle. How much pride do you take in getting the most out of a quarterback? And just generally speaking, what would you say is the key to developing a quarterback and getting the most out of them?
Yeah, I think, experience with Geno was unbelievable. It started with him as a player, and I think, you talk in terms of what guys can learn from him was a unique ability to have a positive mindset no matter what the scenario was. And when I got a chance to start working with him, there was an unwavering mindset that he was a starting quarterback in the NFL, which I think is part of the process or part of the thought process that every quarterback and every player in this league is going to have. And so to get it, to be lucky enough to work with a guy like that had that mindset, and then to be able to start to develop that relationship with him, that rapport, where we can get into game day and feel like, hey, we're on exactly the same page on everything that's going on. I think that was something that I would take from that moment with him. And again, looking forward to it. And you'll hear me, refer to it, a good amount of times. But to me, the teaching, the coaching, it all starts with how well you're getting to know these guys. What's the relationship like with them? And not to say that everyone's going to have the exact same relationship with every single player, and I think, but having that understanding of their why and really, like I said, seeing Geno, how he worked, how he was totally dialed in no matter what the scenario was, whether he was going to be the starter that week, whether he was a backup when I was first around him, that was unwavering, and his confidence from that was unwavering.
You came into this process as one of the hot names in this hiring cycle that would have options to choose from. As an OC, obviously the quarterback situation for any franchise is going to be intriguing. Do you like it or not? What do you find intriguing about the current situation that the Bears quarterback situation is in right now?
Yeah, I think, when you look at it from either lens right now, obviously it's a unique spot in the draft to have the first overall pick, the 9th overall pick, just from an organization in general. It's not going to happen too often. And again, every year is so individually based. This is that year. And then also a group of players that are already in place on offense, including the quarterback that played at a high level and have displayed, the ability to win football games and make plays. So I think the combination of those two things were really intriguing. And then, even furthermore than that was just even from that initial interview, just the connection and interaction between Coach Eberflus and Ryan Poles and seeing a connected organization when you walk in the building and you feel it and you start to get really excited about the direction that this thing's going.
Have you had a chance to talk to Justin Fields yet? And are there challenges maybe that come with trying to build that relationship with his sort of uncertain future here?
Yeah, I think whether it's with him or all these guys, part of it's the rules because you can't go out and meet with the guys right now and we're in that set. But trying to reach out to each guy and give that introduction, and then knowing that the real, like I said, the real relationships, the real conversations are in the future right here, in the near future as we get ready for this thing. But leaving it at that with all these guys, and like I said, I can't wait to get to meet all the guys in person, get a chance to talk with them more. And
so have you talked to him yet or no?
Yeah, we've exchanged messages there.
Shane, your prior experience as a play caller was something that was attractive to the Bears, obviously, during this process. Where do you feel more equipped having had the experience than you did when you first started calling plays? And where have you seen the growth in yourself in that area?
That's a great question. I think, as a play caller or anything you're doing, for the first time, are you ready for it? You don't know until you do it. And then once you've done it, you've been exposed to it. I think it's all about reps, just like no different for a player. The more reps you accumulate, the more situations that are put in front of you, the more and more natural it becomes to react with a positive decision in those scenarios right there. And so for me, I'll look back at this past season and take away the amount of game-winning drives that we were able to accomplish, and thinking about it from the calmness as a play caller in those scenarios, taking the information in from all the other coaches. Everything's always going to be a collaborative effort in those regards. But being able to understand those situations and react in those split seconds and making the best decision for the team, as many times as you can throughout the course of the game. And then also realizing, it's the NFL, everybody's good. So there's defenses that are going to be great every single week, and they might make a play here and there, and being able to move on just like a player would. Hey, if you make a bad play, let's move on right to the next play. That next play might be the best one of the game right there, but don't let the previous play call impact the next play call from an emotional standpoint. And so I think as the more and more reps you get at something, more and more you do it, the more and more comfortable I feel like I become in those scenarios.
You could have gone many places. Going to a team with the #1 overall pick, how attractive is that to you?
Yeah, I think, like I said, having a unique scenario like this where you have the first pick and the 9th pick in the draft, to get a chance to be a part of an organization as storied as this one is, I think all those things go into it. And like I said, you don't, when the season ends, every season's its own entity. You don't necessarily, you're not saying I'm anticipating what's about to happen. And next thing you know, here you go, you're in the interview process. And like I said, it just felt very comfortable very quickly, with meeting those guys, and then obviously having that piece of the draft puzzle, where you get a chance to evaluate so many top players around the college game with those 2 high picks, made it totally appealing.
Have you evaluated Justin, and what did you make of his season?
Yeah, I think for him, talking about individual evaluations, it's been much more build the staff, build our base of what we're going to do. We've started to get into our personnel. We've started to really meet with the scouts, and having that full evaluation of what our roster looks like. And so then moving forward, over the next several weeks will allow us to start to make some decisions, not just at that spot, but at all the spots, because obviously free agency is right in front of us right now. So being able to put all those things together is all part of the process. But for us, too, there's that process of having a foundation as coaches and knowing what we want to be, how we want to present this, so that when we do start talking about the players, how are they fitting in everything that we're looking to do.
What was your pitch to get others to come join your staff?
My pitch to get others to join the staff. Well, I think go back to some relationships. Myself and Thomas Brown had a great experience working with him in Los Angeles right there. Same with some of our guys that were able to make their way out from Seattle with Kerry and Robbie and Chad. So that was those were started with different relationships you had with those people as a starting point. But I also think we did a good job of really spreading the net in terms of interviewing and talking to a lot of people, and getting exposed to new ideas, new thoughts, which is always a good part of the interview process. And then there were some different ones that people that I hadn't known, but recommendations from other people, other coaches. Bringing in, Jennifer King and interviewing her the other day, and hearing how valuable of a piece of our staff that she will be, her knowledge, she had worked with different people that I'd worked with in the past, and how highly they had spoken of her. So each staff member, different ways that they came about in terms of, having a group of people you want to interview, and then narrowing it down to each position specifically is different for each person. But, excited about all the people that we have on board. And then getting a chance with a couple of guys with Chris Morgan and Jim Dre and Zach Cable, guys that were here already, but also had very similar outlook, similar philosophy on how we're looking at the game. So bringing everyone in together has been a fun process.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you.